Welcome to Red and Yellow, the podcast about all things to do with refereeing at grassroots level, looking at the laws of football, speaking to guests and trying to help you become a better referee, with Adam Humphreys and me, Ed Connell.
Hello, it's Adam here and welcome to this episode of Red or Yellow. I just wanted to jump on here before the episode started to remind you to please send us in your questions about anything refereeing, and that way we can hopefully help you improve your game as well as help all of the listeners improve their games as well. It's always nice to hear your opinions and views on things, so please send those in. You can do that via email, that's redorYellowpod@gmail.com, or find us on Instagram, it's at redorYellowpod. Added to that, if you would subscribe to the podcast, that would mean an awful lot to us. And then that way, our meandering chats about refereeing will magically appear on your phone whenever we release a new episode. And lastly, all views expressed on this podcast are that of myself, Adam Humphreys, and not that of Football Queensland. Now that's all done. Let's get on with the show.
Well, good morning, Adam.
Good evening for me. This is where it's such an invert of what we do.
I'm sat here in the daylight.
You are.
I'm off work for a little while, so it means I can record at a nice time for me, and it's evening time for you. And it's also your birthday. Happy birthday. It is.
Thank you very much, kind sir. You're a scholar and a gent. Shush. Let's move on. Not
looking a day over 40, though, which is the main thing.
Oh, you're so Ed.
And we've been away for a while, and it's largely been sort of just difficulty with scheduling, I'm afraid. I think listeners will know that I've had a busy work period, and so that's kind of made things tough. And yeah, so hopefully we'll get a few episodes in over the next few weeks whilst I've got quite a lot of time off. And you've been pretty busy as well, haven't you, really?
I'm always very busy, Edward. But, I recorded on New Year's Day. I recorded on... Didn't I record on New Year's Eve night? Was it New Year's Eve night or was it New Year's Day?
I think so.
I'm recording on my birthday. Night. I mean, look, no one can talk about my commitment to this podcast.
That is dedication for you, isn't it, Adam?
Well, I like to think so.
But you're injured at the moment, aren't you? As I understand it, is that right?
I am. So
what's wrong?
Since we last spoke, I was injured most of last season. And I've got plantar fasciitis, or fasciitis. I don't know what it's called. It's very painful. That's all I know in both feet.
So what is it then?
It's a very painful foot in both feet, and it's triggered by running. Or it's not. No, that's not fair. I'm in pain all day, every day, but pain definitely makes it running definitely makes the pain worse. And so
that's not very good for a referee.
Well, exactly. Pain in feet is not good. Anyway, so one of my friends, Casey Rybelt, who refereed at the Women's World Cup, actually, she also went through it, and she recommended to me.
That was quite a big name drop moment there, just casually dropping in your World Cup referee friend.
Well, you say that, right? But in Queensland, we're a really tight knit community, so kind of most Queensland referees probably sort of know her or know of her. So she spoke at our conference, which happened a few weeks back, and did a really awesome job. And so most people kind of know her. Most people I know her more than I know her. So anyway, let's move on. So she recommended to me middle part last year to go and see a specialist in Brisbane about my feet. And me being me, I was I'd seen a physio here in Toowoomba and was dealing with it. It was okay. Not a lot was changing, but I could get through a game, and I was thinking it'd be all right. I'll just get to the off season. Once I get to the off season, all that rest will heal it. Away I go. All that rest hasn't healed it. It's still a lot of pain. So at the minute, I'm putting myself on the injured reserve list. So I'm not really.
Yeah, I'm just googling it as plantar fasciitis or heel pain is a disorder of the plantar fascia.
Yes.
The connective tissue which supports the arch of the foot, resulting in pain in the heel.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't sound great, really. And it doesn't look as though it's an easy thing to resolve either, from what I'm just reading here. It sort of suggests that you just need to. It takes time to resolve it.
So I've had two people tell me it's a 2-year injury.
Ouch.
So I'm coming into the back part of the first year now with it. Yeah, that is quite hard to accept. And obviously, I think that's why I was in a bit of denial last year, because I just wasn't willing to accept I might be out for 2 years. So, but anyway, I went to see the specialist, and the specialist was amazing, right? So, what she did is she kind of spoke about the feet and asked all my symptoms, as you'd expect. Anyway, she then asked me to do a 1 rep max test, which, if you're not familiar with like gym terms, is like basically how much you can go for 1 rep on how strong my toes were. And she said, there's a guy in Paris who does this, and he works with like triple jumpers and high jumpers and kind of athletes who need their toes. And he said they score about, and they do it as a percentage to body weight. And she said in there, they score about 21% with the strength of their toes. And she said, anything below 10 in general population is a big red flag for me. And she said, for someone like you who's athletic, who referees, etc., I'd expect you to be somewhere between 15 and 20, like pushing up to 20 as well. And so I did it. You like put your toes on this little pressure pad, and you have to press down as hard as you can for a fair period of time, which is really hard to do with your toes, right? Because it's not something you do very often. And I scored 8%. So weak toes tends to be the prognosis. So now I've got some exercises to strengthen my toes, and hopefully I'll get through it.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound good. Sorry to hear that. And I hope that it gets better soon, so we can have you back refereeing again soon and running. Yeah. Any other news for you?
No, not really. Other than
you got a new camera. I mean,
yes, for my birthday. I'm coming to you in 4K now.
If we have any sort of future social media stuff where you've got images of us on screen, you'll see Adam in absolute HD Technicolor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very nice.
And we don't want to release Ed in HD Technicolor because we'd like people to keep following us.
Wow.
Well, I'm getting you back for all the Silver Fox comments to start with.
Well, I mean, I'm merely stating fact. You are almost 40 and you are a Silver Fox. Wow. I mean, it's just fact.
Wow, beat a man while he's down.
Anyway, we thought that I know that we still got a couple of laws left. We've got the goal kick and the corner kick to finish off, but we're certainly going to do today listener questions.
The goal kick and the corner kick are just like these. They're like the weird uncle you don't want at Christmas dinner, aren't they? We just don't want to accept we've got to do them. We're putting them off so much.
We may or may not get onto them today. Depends how long we spend with our listener questions. But because we set up the WhatsApp chats for our listeners, and one of the WhatsApp chats is listener questions, where people have been posting since beginning of the year some questions for us to answer. We thought we'd dedicate a episode to trying to answer those as best we can. Yeah. And encourage people to, if they've got any questions for us, to put them into the listener questions part of our WhatsApp channel. So if you want to join it, let us know. And the nice thing about it is that not only have we got people posing questions for us, we get people trying to answer them as well. And so a bit of engagement. So yeah. So should we start with them in order?
I think we should just explore that a little bit. Like, firstly, thank you to everyone who's joined the Loyal Listener WhatsApp community. Like, that's amazing. We've had loads of people join up, and loads of people have posted in there, which is great. We've kind of set up little groups for people from all over the country. If you want to join the Loyal Listener WhatsApp community, then the link will be in the show notes. Just head there and press join. And as far as I'm aware, it's a pretty easy process. So that would be awesome. And also one little thing, we did have someone reach out to me personally, and he posted me a question. I was like, just put it in the group. He was like, I'm a bit worried about what other people might say. And he couldn't have been proved more wrong about posting the question. Like, no one said it was a silly question or anything. And this is a reminder, there are no silly questions. If you want to ask a question, just ask it, and we will deal with it in full of empathy and love.
I do understand though why some people might be reluctant, because
I do.
I follow lots of sort of referee sort of groups and things like Facebook, and yeah, I'd say 90% of people who respond are sort of making constructive observations and trying to answer the question, trying to point out where somebody might have gone wrong, doing it politely. And there's always an element of people that are like, oh come on, what an idiot. What about this law? And so we're trying to make sure that we don't have that sort of negativity. You can go and post that negativity on other people's forums, but on our WhatsApp channels, just keep it nice and friendly if you can.
But if anyone does post like that, we will obviously call them out on it and we'll remove them. So you have nothing to worry about.
Exactly. And make sure, if you can, to sort of so your WhatsApp ID has got sort of your name or enough of your name that we can sort of identify you so that you get a bit of get a shout out on our podcast. So, should we start at the beginning? The first one was posted. So after we launched it at the beginning of the year, our first post came from somebody called James Morris.
Hello, James.
Hello, James.
A loyal listener.
He's a loyal listener. And he says, this is his question. So the other day, I was refereeing an under-18s match. Late into the game, it was 1-0, and the losing team had a great opportunity to score. As the player took his shot, the defender shouted to put the attacker off. The shot missed, but I signalled for an indirect free kick. I didn't give any card for the offence, but would you have done any different, such as not given an indirect free kick or given a yellow or red for DOGSO? Thanks, and big fan of the pod. Well, thank you very much for being a big fan. It's lovely to hear that. Well, lots of stuff to sort of deal with here. Where do you want to start, Adam?
Losing team had a great opportunity. As a player took a shot, defender shouted to put the attacker off. Now, that's something that, I mean, we've read through the whole laws of the game, right, together over a long period of time now. But that doesn't exist, does it? Do you remember when, if you're refereeing, people were like, oh, he can't say mine, or he can't say leave it, and stuff like that? That doesn't actually exist in the laws of the game at all. So,
no,
Go on.
No, I was going to say that's some big misconceptions that for some reason there's this myth that is perpetuated that you can't shout anything on a football pitch, and if you shout man on, for example, person on, that that is automatically sort of an infringement, and it's not. But I mean, what the law actually says is if you do something like that deliberately to put somebody off, that's unsportsmanlike conduct. So that it is a sanction, but the mere fact of saying something on the pitch isn't automatically a sanction. So if you are genuinely shouting man on to somebody, and it's designed to simply let the person know that they're being there's another player near them, no problem at all with that. But in a case where it's been described here that isn't the situation, they're merely shouting it in order to put somebody off, then that is in my
unsporting behaviour.
Unsporting behaviour.
Yeah. So
the interesting thing is that you've then got to sort of work through what happens next. So I don't think this is entirely straightforward to answer on this question. What I would say though is this is a classic problem that only exists at the grassroots level. I don't think you'd ever find yourself with your Haaland about to take a shot and somebody shouting from 10 yards away, man on.
I don't know. Probably. Well, if he's like at the Olympic Stadium, then he'll have 50,000 people trying to put him off, right? And that's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's a very hard case to prove that the comment put the attacker off. You have no way of knowing if that shot was going to go in or not. Now, someone shouting, "Oh, miss it" or something is inconvenient, is annoying. But you have no evidence to prove that if that hadn't been said, a goal would have been scored. You could argue that with DOGSO full stop. I mean, I don't think it can be a DOGSO in any way, shape or form. It doesn't fall under any of the considerations for DOGSO.
Well, I'm going to perhaps beg to differ in a second, actually.
Really?
But, yeah, because first of all, I don't think this is... The bit about whether or not it's an offence is quite clear. I mean, we're agreed about that. If it's being done deliberately to try and put somebody off, it is an offence. But let's just work through it in stages from the way he's posed the question. So the player here actually takes the shot, right? And the shot has missed. So the first thing is was he right in those circumstances to give an indirect free kick? Because hasn't he, in essence, played advantage there? Because once the infringement takes place, if it's done deliberately to put somebody off, that offence has been committed. If you're going to give it, you either whistle to stop or you play the advantage, right? Now here, he hasn't expressly said that he played advantage, but he hasn't stopped it before the shot gets away, and the shot has then missed. So my analysis, and this is why I say I don't think this is as straightforward as it at first appears,
Nothing
is
straightforward.
that he's kind of instinctively played an advantage there, although he hasn't shouted it. So is it right then, shot having been taken and then missed, that he should then go back and give the free kick?
I mean, I bet it's one of those situations where it kind of all happens at once. like going through it
Yeah.
logically like that. He's had to write it in a text, so it seems like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened.
Yeah, and it almost happened. It's a
It's
second
probably all
or
happening at
two.
the same time. You're right. Like, I mean, in the laws, it can't be a DOGSO, but it can, and you could stop it if you're going to stop it and give an indirect free kick at the point upon which that was said to the attacker. Then you have to go back and give the yellow card for unsporting behaviour, I think.
Correct.
Because you're stopping play for verbal abuse, right? Well, not abuse, but
that's a
verbal
cautionable
unsporting behaviour.
offence.
Yeah, and you can do that anywhere on the pitch, right? So say a team's attacking and the defender to the attacking team says something, you can stop play, pick the ball up, and do an indirect free kick from the point upon which that defender said that thing to you or to whoever. Perfectly within your rights to do that. But I would say if you're going to do that, you need to sell it, and a yellow card is really going to help you sell it. I don't think there's anything more in it than that. You can't call it like a technical DOGSO on it or anything like that. Like a DOGSO.
Well, you say that, right?
Boxes,
but I'm going to ask you now to justify why you say that, because let's assume, and I think we had another listener question which actually asked the question about where the free kick should take place from, right? Is it from the point where the player was when they had the ball? No. Is it from where the position of the person that was doing the shouting to try and put people off? But let's just say for a moment, the players, the attacking players in the box, right? And they're about to take their shot. And let's just say for a moment that the offending defensive player who shouts man on to put them off deliberately, and you consider that to be a deliberate, unsportsmanlike conduct element, and he's in the box as well, right? So he's done something, committed an offence inside the box with an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Why would that not be a DOGSO?
Because the laws of DOGSO state that it has to have it has to have contact, so it has to be because it has to match the same.
I don't think that's right.
I think it does. So I've got it in front of me here. Okay.
Yeah.
Denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Where a player commits an offence against an opponent within their own penalty area, which denies an opponent an obvious goal scoring opportunity, and the referee awards a penalty kick, the offender is cautioned if the offence was an attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball. So there's no
mention of contact.
No, but there's no attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball if you're verbally doing it. In all other circumstances, e.g. holding, pulling, pushing, no possibility to play the ball, the offending player must be sent off. Now, you could say there's no possibility to play the ball, but the player's not trying to play the ball. It can't be DOGSO because there's no attempt to play the ball and there's no contact on the player. That's why it can't be DOGSO.
But you don't have. The whole point is you don't have to have contact. I don't think DOGSO requires there to be contact. It's talking about committing an offence against a player in the penalty area.
E.g., for example, holding, pulling, pushing, no possibility to play the ball, and that no possibility to play the ball is with regards to how contact is made. You can't give a DOGSO when no contact is made. How do you do that? How would you how do you give a foul when no contact is made? It has to be so the verbal offence results in an indirect free kick no matter where it is on the pitch, because you're stopping play because it's an indirect free kick anywhere on the pitch. It doesn't meet the requisites for a direct free kick. Therefore, it can't be a penalty. Therefore, it can't be DOGSO.
I get the bit about it being an indirect free kick. An indirect free kick ordinarily would not, you'd have an indirect free kick in the box for that. But I actually think there is an issue here with the way they've defined DOGSO. I don't think it expressly says
there has to be
contact.
I think,
and that's why I think it's not as straightforward as it might first appear. Now, somebody's going to no doubt write in and say Ed's completely mad for X, Y, and Z reasons.
The other thing I would say as well is you then have to take it into spirit of the game, and you then have to take it into places like what football would expect. Now, if you're given a red card for DOGSO for someone shouting something at someone, like, you're in a world of pain doing that. Okay, firstly, you can't prove that like you have no actual evidence that comment stopped that shot from going in. Might have, but you have no actual hardcore evidence. Like you can't prove it 100% beyond all reasonable doubt. That comment stopped that ball from going into that net.
But you can. I
You
mean,
can't.
if somebody's lining up to kick the ball,
How many times have you seen? How many times have you seen
somebody
someone
shouts out something, right, as their sort of leg comes back and they scream at them, man on, and then they swing and miss, right? I don't think you get much clear evidence about there being a connection between the comment and then the failed shot, right?
correlation?
That for me,
correlation
is clear.
does not equal causation. Or is it causation does not equal correlation? No, correlation does not equal. I don't know. That phrase, okay, that I've never really fully understood is apt here, okay? You can't prove it. You can't prove it. That 17-year-old may have miskicked it anyway. John Terry, when John Terry missed that penalty in the UEFA Champions League final, which I'm sure you remember very well, like no one was expecting him to slip. You don't know what's going to happen.
But you'll be quite entertained to know. Do you know what my because obviously I make notes in relation to the podcast, Adam. This is you looking at these questions for the first time. But I've made notes, and you'll be quite entertained because you know what I've written down here.
Can't be DOGSO.
I put in inverted commas, classic Adam reaction, right? And then I put Adam will say, "What does the game expect?" No one here is expecting a penalty for that. No one's expecting a red card for that. And so it's going to be, well, I mean, I didn't say what you'd say it was going to be, but I think I knew you'd say that no one's expecting that to be a penalty. But I just thought, I do think there is a little bit of lack of clarity in the DOGSO definition.
It's a great question. And
it is a great question.
If people have a different opinion, then please let us know. But I think we should move on before I get into a very, very, very angry state on my birthday. Because I don't think we're going to conclude and agree to it.
But no, I would love to know what people's thoughts are, because I think, listen, instinctively, what you said is, look, it's not a red card. It's not a DOGSO. No one's going to expect that to happen. And I think, generally speaking, that is right. And I think that you probably should have cautioned the player for the unsporting conduct, and you should have probably just let it go with the goal kicks. The shot's been missed, blah blah blah. But I did think it was quite interesting to just have a look, because I personally couldn't definitively answer that question yes or no based on the DOGSO definition.
I don't mind the indirect free kick being given there. That's great. Like, he's missed the free kick, give the indirect free kick if you think it has affected him. Perfect. There's no need for a DOGSO. Like that's more than enough of a sanction, because they're getting a second pop at the cherry, right? And that's why it can't be a DOGSO.
Yeah, but what happens if it's I'll give a shout out to the person that posed the question later on, because I don't want them to be deprived of their shout out. But where does the free kick take place from?
From the point at which the person said the offence.
Right, I agree. So that's my view.
If the person's outside the area, you take the ball back outside the area, you give the indirect free kick there. If they're on the goal line, it's an indirect free kick.
Fine.
I'm
in agreement with you. I think the foul or infringement is committed at the position where the player shouting is positioned. So
absolutely right.
Cool. Good. Right. Okay. Well, there we go.
Let's do the next one. Luke.
Simple question posed all sorts of debate, but there we go.
Luke from Upminster. Hey, well, I know Upminster really well. I used to work there. I used to live next door to it. I used to get the train from it every single day. So hello, Upminster, if you're listening. 70th minute league match. Home team is 1-0 up. Player gets booked for kicking the ball away after a foul time wasting. Really punts it upfield. 8 minutes later, ball goes out for a throw-in. Away team who are losing. Player kicks ball back towards keeper, who is maybe 10 to 15 yards away. I don't book him as it's their time. However, home team say that's not fair as they want to win 2-0. Am I right? Second offence, nowhere near as much of a kick, more of a pass, and home team not rushing to get the ball away anyway.
So again, another really great question. For me, I mean, I might be viewed by somebody as being a bit harsh, but I would say you've got to give a yellow card. And I think you've got to give a yellow card for two reasons: one based in law, and one based on your authority in the game. As a matter of law, it is now a free kick. People are getting and yellow card rather. People are getting used to seeing on the Premier League now anybody that sort of kicks the ball away, whether it's just a short distance or not, or picks the ball up, walks away with it, and throws it in direction. We're all getting used now to seeing yellow cards straight away for that, right? And I think that's a good thing. I like the fact that law change has been introduced this year to make sure there's just no wriggle room. So it is, as a matter of law, for me, a yellow. I think the second important reason for giving it is I understand why he's justified to himself why it wasn't perhaps necessary to give it. But if you do that, you sort of undermine your sort of impartiality and your authority, because it almost suggests as though I apply the law differently depending on the circumstance. And I personally, I think you want to be consistent in your application of the law. If you've given a yellow card at one end for a player doing it, regardless of the circumstances, I think you've got to give a yellow at the other end. Otherwise, you're just inviting people to say you're biased or whatever. So that's me being a lawyer, but what's your view?
Look, I get it. Like, you're completely right. Like, you have to lay the law out equally both sides. If you, and it's perception. So, and this is the thing that's got the referee here, got Luke here, and we've all done it. We've all been in a situation, like I've been in situations where I'll say to a player, all right, that's your last foul, one more foul and you're done. Like, I've got to give you a yellow card for persistent. And then the next foul is the most like ridiculous little foul. Like, it's almost like he's blown on the player and the player's gone down. And like, you look up and like, so many times have I not given, once I've given him his final warning, so many times have I then not given the next foul because it was such a petty little foul. Like, it just didn't warrant, like, it was just silly. However, the problem with that is you undermine everything. And we all talk ourselves into these positions and these situations where you think, oh, but it's not that bad. I really don't need to do it here. But it's the way that's then perceived across the park.
Yep.
And unfortunately, sometimes you just have to give the tough one. Sometimes you do, just for that element of balance. Like, I get it. I understand it's only passed it back to his keeper. He's only 10, 15 yards away. But it's the perception to everybody else. And you have to remember that everybody else is going to have a much harsher perception than you're going to have. And the thing is whenever you take the nice route as the referee, whenever you think, oh, look, I'm just going to be fair and even here, there's no need for it, don't worry about it. Whenever you do that as a referee, in my experience, that only causes you more problems, which is a really annoying fact, because you're trying to be a nice guy, but you're not there to be a nice guy. You're there, or girl, you're there to basically do your job. And, you know, with persistent, if the next one is the tiniest little, silliest, tiniest little trip that you've called, even if you've blown it and you think once you've blown it, it might not be a foul or it was really harsh, if that player's on the final warning, you still have to give it. It doesn't. If you've given a yellow card for kicking the ball away, you have to apply that within very tight parameters consistently throughout the game. And you can argue till the cows come home. The difference, like, oh, that was only 10 to 15 yards away. He was giving it back to a teammate. If it's perceived as time wasting and you've already done it once, it's much harder for you to not give it again.
Yeah,
much harder.
And the problem's then going to be it's this whole thing about perception, because what's inevitably going to happen next is there's going to be a 50-50 challenge that you're going to give to the other team, and they're just going to be thinking, "Oh, the ref's against us," you know, and you don't really need to create that problem for yourself.
No,
you know, so it's a clear sort of infringement. And listen, I understand, like you say, Luke's just trying to apply common sense. You know, he doesn't want to be sort of dishing out cards all over the place. And they're a goal dad anyway. They're only wasting their own time. But they then equalise, and it happens again. It just gets messy. So, and I think that if a referee decided, right, I'm not going to give the yellow card for the various reasons, I think I would at least have very sort of demonstrably gone up to the player concerned and had a chat with them,
dressed them down,
so that everybody realizes, okay, so he knows it's an infringement. He's spoken to him about it,
yeah.
But but I do think it's yellow.
Also, game context is important. They're 1-0 up, right? Like anything can happen with 10 minutes to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to make sure that you're controlling that 10 minutes to the best way possible. And by not giving the yellow card there, you're undermining your own control, and you don't want to do that. And the other thing, you're right. You're trying to apply common sense, but players, like common sense isn't common, and players don't have a lot of it. So you can't afford to give them that much trust, I'm afraid.
And you're spot on to say it is important to think about the context of the game, because as we've all talked about before, it's in that sort of closing part of the game when things can get a little bit frantic. And I think it's even more important then that you're sort of making sure that you're applying the law properly, and sort of calm things down. So anyway, very good question.
It was
from Luke. Luke was very busy in January with
he
posing
was
questions for us. And the next one is a great question. And it's a subject of much debate when people are watching TV and watching big games on TV. So his question is, at what point does it become a foul when the player makes a tackle, wins the ball, but takes the player out with the follow through? Now, it's always former football playing pundits that completely misunderstand the laws of the game. And we all see it. A player comes in, does a tackle, which is a foul, and then they immediately stand up and sort of make the shape of the ball, or they scream, "I've got the ball, ref." So that sort of is your get out of jail free card. What people don't understand is that, your tackle includes the follow through, right? It's not suddenly a tackle that stops becoming a tackle once you made contact with the ball. It's the entirety of your conduct in that movement which constitutes the tackle. And if you do that carelessly, recklessly, or with excessive force, whether you get the ball or not, you commit an infringement. I mean, I hope I'm not trying to make it sound simpler than it is, but it is to me super simple.
I get it. I get the question. I understand it. I think at the end of the day, if anything is reckless within anything to do with contact in any way, shape, or form, it counts. Like we've seen a lot of these, haven't we? Like was it Rashford who kind of like made a tackle and then stamped on the guy's foot, and got a red card for it? And everyone's like, how can it be a red card? He's on the ball and he's just slipped through, and it's not his fault the player's foot was there. Well, I'm sorry, it was. And sometimes it's harsh, sometimes it's bad luck, sometimes that's football, right? But at the end of the day, if you're making contact like that, it's a red card. I'm sorry. We can't be stamping by accident or not. You can't be stamping. And so in any way, shape, or form, just because the amount of times I've had players come in from behind, win the ball, and they think that's their justification. I'm like, mate, I'd have won the ball if I'd have pushed the player out of the way first. If I'd have taken the legs out first, I'd have won that ball. We would have all won that ball if we'd have fouled the guy. Winning the ball doesn't mean anything. You still fouled the guy, or girl. So that's basically that. You have to view the whole context of everything when two players are coming together.
Yeah, and getting the ball might impact on how severely you sort of view the sort of follow through. But I mean, whether it's if it's careless, reckless, or excessive force, then it's a foul. Whether that takes place before or after you've made contact.
I mean, take it to the nth degree. Take it to the nth degree, right? Say a player wins the ball, and then he also takes his elbow up and hits the guy in the face with his elbow. Yeah. That still counts as violent conduct. So that's the extreme version.
So let's just see what the next question is. I think the next question comes from Luke, and he says, another one from me, with a game at the weekend in the Olympian League. Attacking team is in the final third. Defender comes over to tackle the winger by the touchline. There's a ricochet between the players and the ball goes out. It happens very quickly. This is, as an aside comment, often a problem at grassroots level. The assistant looks at me and says, I don't know. And I'm not sure. I think it comes off the defender, but I'm not certain. Sorry, I'm not sure. I think it came off the defender, but I'm not certain. I go with my gut, but the defender moans and says, I know you wasn't sure, ref. Of course, I denied and said I was, just checking with the assistant. He says that when that happens, he's expecting the decision to go with the defending team. thoughts. And what was nice was Dave immediately responded to this, and Dave has basically done our job for us because he pretty much took the answer away from me. But I'm going to read out Dave's answer. Dave says, my advice would be, if you're unsure on a throw-in, if the ball is deep inside a team's half, I would go with the defending team. That saves any issues around the attacking team scoring from a throw-in. If you give a throw-in to the attacking team, you need to sell the decision with lots of confidence in your action and whistle if needed. Well, I think Dave's response is actually
perfect,
on the money. We've talked before about, letting people sort of take advantage in terms of where they take their throw-ins from. And, we've said before, the last thing you want to do is sort of turn a blind eye to that, and then it leads to a goal because it's just a mess. I think Dave's completely right here. If you don't know, and this happens and this does happen, it's difficult. You've got two pairs of eyes looking at something happening very, very quickly, and it's often impossible to know. I think if it is I think just give it to the defensive team. And if you want to be candid and say to the player, I didn't have a great view, but my gut feeling is it's a defense throw, then what else can they expect of you? Would be my answer.
Or just be safe. Just be safe and just say, I don't know, let's give it to the defense and move out of here. It's safer. And the only other thing I want to add to this is shout out to the Olympian League. I did many games on the Olympian League. I'm glad to hear it's still going strong. Yeah, many, many, many games. So that's good. That's nice.
Did you? You probably wouldn't see, but on social media, Adam, there was a clip the other day on that topic of positions of throw-ins.
Right.
And it was an absolute shocker. So the ball goes out sort of near the halfway line, right? And what's happened is it's been hoofed out by the defender. It's gone up massively in the air, but ultimately it crosses the touch line near the halfway line. And so a player goes over to there to take the throw in, right? But another player has picked up a spare ball about 20 yards further up the pitch, right? And you know what's going to happen next, because it's the referee's nightmare, right? They take the throw in, the referee allows play to continue, and they score. And there was an absolute outcry on social media because everyone's saying, what referees even here for? If they go overlook. I mean, it was like a 20-yard difference between where the ball went out, where the throw was taken. And I just thought, oh god, I feel sorry for your grassroots referees if you've got professional referees letting that sort of thing slide.
But it's not a grassroots problem because you don't have multi-ball systems at grassroots.
No, that's true. I mean, what you often do have spare balls on the touchline, to be fair.
Yeah, but that's an easy get out. Like, oh, I've not checked that one. Like, no, we're not playing with it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. That's not flat or whatever. At the end of the day, to control that in the best way possible, you just tell the players exactly where you want the throw to be taken from when it goes out of play. Like, I do it every single throw. I'm like, at that billboard, I'm like, on the halfway line. I'm like, in line with me. That's the one I use the most. Like, the throw should be being taken pretty much in line with where you're standing. So put your arm out and just say, in line with me, where I am. Yep, that's great. Let's go. And then if anyone does anything 20 yards away, everyone knows you said you wanted the throw in line with you.
I will try and retweet it because I took a screenshot and it was the teams that were playing on the screen were the initials CAR, and then it was against presumably BOL, must be Bolton. I don't know. Is it Carlisle probably versus Bolton? Maybe. I don't know what league this was in.
Cardiff, but Cardiff.
Oh, possibly Cardiff. The tweet was, how on earth has the referee allowed the throw in to be taken 20 yards? So there was 20 yards down the line from where the ball went out of play, which then resulted in a goal being scored. Absolute nightmare there. But anyway, that was it. Just an aside. I'll try and retweet that from our Twitter account. Back to our listener questions. Now, I think we will save this question for another episode because I think it is something that just requires a little bit of discussion. But I'm going to read that now so that if anybody wants to have some input on our channels and suggest some answers, then they can do. But it's another question from Luke who says, how about an idea for a show topic? When does a strong tackle become reckless or excessive and requires force? And then he goes on to say, could we discuss also when the follow through catches players dangerously, although after contact with the ball? I think we've dealt with that in our last question.
Very much so.
But I think we will come back on another occasion and talk about sort of how you do assess that what can be sometimes difficult between, careless, reckless, and excessive force on an occasion. Then this
Jeff.
is the Now, some people have posted questions with reference to sort of clips from social media of an incident that have happened. And I think in future, what we'll try and do is, if we're answering those questions, we will endeavour, subject to someone taking it down for copyright reasons, to post the picture. But anyway, Jeff's question here is, want to deal with this one?
Yeah. On one of the recent episodes, you were discussing positioning and the need to get deep into the box if necessary. I think that was the episode with our producer, wasn't it? My concern about that is the higher probability of being hit by an errant pass, which results in a drop ball to the keeper. This could scuttle a goal. What a word, scuttle. Scuttle a goal, scoring opportunity because of my positioning. That's why I've tended to stay at the top of the box instead of inside. What are your thoughts and or recommendations? Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a tough one. So you're not wrong. It comes down to basically whether play is in flow or whether play is static, right? So if players are passing the ball around the penalty area, in the penalty area, like I'd call that kind of static play. That's not in flow. It's not penetrating play. There's going to be bodies, and then you do need to stand clear of that. You obviously need to stay out of passing lanes, of course. But really, we talk about getting deep on the football field as a referee when players is like inflow, when players penetrating through into the box. So when you've got a very fast breakaway or something like that, you need to get up there with it at an angle. This is why we always say make sure you run the angle. See, now my instinct with Jeff is if he's standing at the top of the penalty area when players in the penalty area, chances are he's not running an angle anyway. Now, if you're running an angle away from your assistant on that side, so as you're running through the field, always sort of running to the left, then you're going to generally be clear of around the goal mouth area where you might get in the way. And obviously, you don't always have to get into the penalty area. It's just being there or thereabouts. If you have that in your mind, if you have that aim in your head, then when it goes out for a goal kick or whatever, you're more likely to be there, so you're more credible. When there's a penalty, like penalties don't often happen when players are passing the ball around. It happens when you've got a player breaking through and you've got a defender chasing him down or a goalkeeper rushing out at him. You're not likely to get in the way of a pass there. If players are passing it around the area, you do need to stand back a bit, stand clear, have angle, make sure you're not in their passing lanes. We don't always get it right. But I mean, really, the best thing to understand with this is watch and analyze what the top refs do in this situation, and you want to be on that step. One of the most important aspects of positioning is predicting play, is being able to know where the players are going to play the ball, when they're going to play it, why they're going to play it there, and being able to fall in, is predict it and then fall in sort of behind it. And you kind of want to be coming in behind. You don't ever, especially into the penalty area, you want to be coming in behind play. You don't want to be getting there ahead of play. If you're there ahead of play, you're so much more likely to get in the way. If you're coming in, sweeping in behind, then you're very much not likely to get in the way of a pass or get in the way of the ball. But I would say to Jeff, it sounds like he's running quite flat. So just kind of standing towards the top of the D, heading into the penalty area where the penalty spot is, and you don't want to be there. You do want to be like further out with angle on the edge of the penalty area towards the left-hand side as you're running would be my best suggestion. Does that make sense? It's hard to explain.
Yeah, it does. No, it does. It is difficult to explain positioning if you're not sort of like doing it diagrammatically or with reference to some footage. But you've taken away my 2 points. One is about it helps to be able to understand and be able to predict what's going to happen in terms of play. This is why I do think that being a player and being a former player, you do have a good understanding of that. You kind of know what is likely to happen. You don't always get it right, but I think that then helps you kind of, because then you position yourself in an area where you would least expect the ball to be coming to next, right? Yeah. And you can learn that skill even if you're not a former player. I know lots of referees take up refereeing without having played themselves before. And I think what I would say is that you're right. Most of these sort of situations are where there's sort of quite, attempt to get into the box and sort of get a shot wherever, and then there comes a foul. Where I think it's quite useful to get closer is where, for example, there's some grappling taking place near the touchline in the penalty area, where I think you kind of want to get as close to that as you possibly can. And you know that you can get pretty close there because whatever comes out of that, it's unlikely to sort of hit you, especially if you're not goal side, which you should never be. But it's all about giving yourself credibility on decision making. And the second point you made was, which I think is really, really useful, but sometimes I watch a game just to watch the referee. Mm-hmm. And you learn an awful lot from that.
It's not worth watching Chelsea, is it?
Well, it's not worth watching Chelsea full stop at the moment because we're absolutely abominable. But sometimes it's good just to watch a game. It's quite interesting exercise to watch a game and just watch the referee and watch how they position themselves. Where they are, because I'd suggest some people do that at some point, because I do think you learn an awful lot about positioning there. But I think that the takeaway point for me anyway from this question is that I do think there has been misconception in terms of referees thinking that you don't get into the box, you kind of don't get involved in the box. And I think we need to dispel that, because in fact, you want to be as close as you can be to the decision making, which is going to make a difference to the game, and that's the penalty area.
I just want to caveat that you don't need to be as close as you can be. Like, the best position on the field of play is the one where you can give the most credible decision.
Yeah,
and that's a very, very distinct difference. Like, sometimes when you do get to play, you do get in the way, and it's painful. What I would say on that is, I've never had the ball hit me in the penalty area ever. I have had the ball hit me several times. Likewise. As players breaking through the center circle. Like, if I'm standing in the diagonal passing lane, I'm center field, ball's out wide, and they play it across and it catches me out and it hits me. That's where it's more likely to hit you.
I agree.
You just, if you get your position in, if you know your angles and you sort of stand in the place I'm kind of asking you to stand in, like, you're God, it's got to be a bad pass for you to get hit in the penalty area. And also you instinctively wouldn't get in the way there. But as plays transitioning, you're so much more likely to get in the way because you're running across the line as plays break in, as the ball is being played forward. So everyone's moving forward in the same direction. Well, not in the same direction, but it's moving the same way down the field, but you're all moving in slightly different directions. And it's a lot harder to choose where the ball's going to go as the referee, because the passer has so many more options available to him.
I mean, I'm the same as you. I can't recall ever being hit by the ball in the penalty area. Now, this wasn't part of the question, but in the event that the ball does hit you in the penalty area, it would then be drop ball to the team that had possession.
Yeah, which is annoying. Which is annoying, but it is. You just have to try and make it as safe as possible,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is somebody by the name of what says Mon, M-O-N. So it says, can you advise if an attacking player in an offside position receives the ball from a defender, with just the keeper defending, scores a goal, is that goal allowed? And Luke, in fact, came back and answered this one. I think Luke pretty much gets it right.
We should have just invited Luke on for this episode, shouldn't we?
If the defender played the ball, let's say had the ball under control, and it's just a bad pass, then the goal will stand. But if it was a miskick, deflection, swing at it, rebound, etc., it would be offside. The defender needs to be seen to be in control and play. So I think Luke's pretty much got it right. But I think if it's a miskick, the goal would still stand, because that's a deliberate attempt to play the ball. But they've miskicked it. I think that would then mean that the goal will still stand, wouldn't it, Adam?
I've pulled out the laws of the game because I'm going to look up the considerations for offside, because that's basically what we're talking about here. It comes down to how close you are. Like, there's loads of things. Like, is the ball easier to play in the air or on the floor? It's easier to play on the floor. So therefore, if the ball's gone to the defender on the floor and he's gone to make a play on the ball, like how easy was that to do? And if he's missed it, is that deliberate play or not? Like, it's all about trying to figure out whether the ball is a deliberate play or not. And it's not easy. Another thing with that is distance. How close is the player to the ball? The defender, how close was he to the ball? If he was very close, is he like making a save as it was? And therefore, you can't deem that as a deliberate play because he's not had a chance to think and process what he's doing for the ball.
I get that, but a miss kick is suggestive of somebody that has got the, let's say, got the ball at their feet, and they're trying to pass it to one of their own players, and they make a hash of it, albeit a deliberate action.
Mm-hmm.
Then that, for me, would in that circumstance mean that the goal would still stand.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate that there are other circumstances where, for example, it's coming at them and it's bouncing and it's in the air, and they haven't really got the opportunity to get it under control, then it would be a different scenario. But have you found the section that's got the considerations? Because that's in the Aussie laws of the games, isn't it?
It's not. Have you seen the front cover of it? Have you seen the front cover of the Australian laws of the game?
Some silver fox guys on the front. I can't work out who it is.
No, I mean, it's you, Adam. How cool is that? The following criteria should be used as appropriate as indicators that a player was in control of the ball and as a result can be considered to have deliberately played the ball. The ball travelled from distance and the player had a clear view of it. The ball was not moving quickly. The direction of the ball was not unexpected. The player had time to coordinate their body movement, i.e. it was not a case of instinctive stretching or jumping or a movement that achieved limited contact stroke control. A ball moving on the ground is easier to play than a ball in the air. So if it kind of matches all of that, then it's
so if for this situation the defender deliberately kicks the ball but just executes it badly, it's a deliberate play. Then it's a deliberate play. It's not offside and it's a goal. But if any of those other factors are relevant, then it may not be. So good question, because that is another one that foxes a lot of people. It's
always a great idea to go over those deliberate play considerations as well.
I agree. The next one was from, I think you posted something, Adam, that invited a bit of comment. It was a video clip. And so should I just describe the video and then we can sort of have a quick debate about it. So it's a back pass to the keeper who, knowing he can't pick it up, attempts to control it with his feet, miscontrols it. Attacking player comes in to try and challenge for the ball, and they're literally on the edge of the 6-yard box. And the goalkeeper goes to the ground and uses his hands, punches, swipes, whatever, the ball away from the attacking player's feet. And you post the clip, and again, we should try and put this on social media, and you post a question, thoughts on this. Rob Lodder was one of the people that replied. He said, well, going from memory of a podcast you guys spoke about this, genuine fumble of the ball, and then the goalkeeper can then use his hands when there's a player in contest for the ball. And then Dave then said, indirect free kick, no caution. You then asked, what's the indirect free kick for? And Dave said, my thoughts were a back pass to the keeper. More than happy to be corrected, though. And you said, open discussion. Let's hear other people's views. And then another person.
You're a great commentator, Edward.
Alan then said, play away. He controlled it, slipped as he went to pass it. If he hands it first, then I'd go indirect free kick. And Dave says, my thoughts would be, did the keeper attempt or clearly tries to kick the ball back into play? I would have said no for that. I would have awarded the indirect free kick. Everyone would be calling for a red card, but no caution can be given. The goalkeeper attempts to kick the ball back into play, then handles the ball, then play on. So that was all the differing viewpoints. My starting point for this was to try and apply the law. And from a
that should be a starting point, full stop, shouldn't it?
Well, it should be. But,
you should always look to apply the law.
I know, but we know there are other factors that play as well sometimes, including, as we said today, common sense and what the game expects, etc.
What the game expects,
what the game expects. Now, for me, it's an indirect free kick and it's a caution because he's tried to play the ball with his feet. He's made a right hash of it. he can't pick the ball up and he can't use his hands.
Why
And
can't he use his hands?
Because he can't use
Why?
it. He can't touch the ball again.
Why not?
He can't pick it up.
Oh, he didn't pick it up.
No, he swiped it away, but he's using his hands then to swipe it away.
Which he's more than entitled to. He's a goalkeeper.
So you think that's all right, do you?
Absolutely fine. I have no issues with it. Yeah, I understand the concept of a back pass. I understand how everyone on this has got very like, oh, but it doesn't make sense in law, because 9 times out of 10 a goalkeeper is just going to boot it out, right? A goalkeeper is entitled to use his hands in the penalty area, full stop. He has no issues with that. Like, he's allowed to. He's allowed to, like, once he's made the kick on it, like, he's not allowed to pick the ball up. The back pass law says an indirect free kick is awarded if a goalkeeper inside the penalty area commits any of the following offences: controls the ball hand for more than 6 seconds before releasing it, touches the ball with the hand arm after releasing it before it has touched another player, touches the ball with the hand stroke arm unless the goalkeeper has clearly kicked or attempted to kick the ball to release it into play after it has been deliberately kicked to the goalkeeper by a teammate, receiving it directly from a throw-in taken by a teammate.
So you're I mean, I think you're probably right in your analysis of that then is that because he's attempted to kick the ball, which he obviously plainly did, but messed it up. That then means ball's back in play. And there's nothing wrong with him using his hand. Okay, fine. Well, if only every question, Adam, could be so simply answered by a quick reference to the laws of the game, we wouldn't have a podcast.
Just like whether you can verbally cause a DOGSO or not.
Exactly. Well, verbally causing a DOGSO is not quite so straightforward. I still stand by that, although I'm perfectly happy to be corrected by our lovely law listeners who can tell me that I'm missing something glaringly obvious. But yeah, there we go. I think that's all the list of questions we had in our little WhatsApp group, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, that was nice. I like rattling through those. It's always nice because it brings out good advice from us as well, doesn't it? Which is always, which is what we kind of want for the podcast, which is great. Yeah, absolutely. But they were really good questions. Thank you very much. Questions with issues that quite frequently arise, especially at grassroots levels. So I hope the answers and the debate will be of some use to our listeners. And I think, Adam, we're going to save our final 2 laws of the game for another episode, aren't we? I think we should. Yes. People have probably had enough of my voice. I think they probably have. And we will hopefully be able to do some more recordings in the coming weeks because I'm going to be available. Excellent. That's always nice when you're available. That will be, won't it? And so keep the listener questions coming in because we love to hear from you. Feel free to join our WhatsApp group, but you can always get in touch with us through our other channels as well on what was formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, via email at redoryellowpod@gmail.com. It's not at red or yellow pod, it's redoryellowpod@gmail.com. All our social media handles are at red or yellow pod. Correct. Perfect. Yeah. So get in touch with us. Always nice to hear from you. Always. Right, we'd love to see you, Adam. Enjoy the rest of your birthday. What time is it there? 9 p.m. 9:15. It's bedtime. Bedtime? What, 9:15? Absolutely. I've been up. I went for a swim this morning. I've been up since 4:30. Oh my God, that is bedtime then. Yeah. Right. Well, enjoy the remainder of your birthday and will, my friend. Sleep well, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao. Bye. Thank you so much for making it to the end of another episode of Red or Yellow. You're clearly a very fit listener. May I gently remind you to like and subscribe to this podcast in your podcast app. That way, when we release a new episode, our meandering chats will magically appear on your phone. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share it with one of your friends when they ask for a podcast recommendation. Word of mouth goes a long way, and no more so than yours. Don't forget, you can get 10% off any refereeing equipment that you might need if you head to processports.com and use the code REDORYELLOW10 at checkout. Thank you so much for listening this week, and don't forget to follow us on social media. It's at Red or Yellow Pod, and please feel free to send us any questions that you may have via DM, or you can email redoryellowpod@gmail.com.
we cannot wait to speak to you again very, very soon. Ciao, ciao.